Hey everybody, it's Admiral Newkirk here, and I'm going to be casting a game between BratOk and Darkforce. Now this game is from late March, but it was sort of ahead of its time, by which I mean it was right around its time, but the strategy seen in it wouldn't be seen on ladder till about now. I haven't actually seen the game, I've just heard about this on the Team Liquid forums, and I also heard that it was amazing, and I'm extremely excited. BratOk is a great Terran player, and Darkforce is good enough to be playing BratOk, and actually, these two players have some history. They had a pretty epic game in, I believe, DreamHack. And Darkforce came out the winner, and this was back when Zerg were considered like super underpowered versus Terran, which they were. I mean, it was not even close to fair. And so, watching a top-tier player like BratOk go down to a Zerg at that time was pretty cool. Not anything like Diamaga winning, or Fruit Dealer, pardon, winning the GSL Finals, but something like that. And the game was just epic, and so I heard this was as well, and so we're going to be watching it. As I said, from late March, so therefore the strategy seen in it are just now going to be popping up on our domestic diamond level ladder. Doobie-doobie-doo. We see Darkforce, and we'll slow it down right now. I just like to save some time on the upload. We see Darkforce opening pool into hatch, pool gas hatch with a spine crawler right here. Put spine crawlers down, just one or two, to restrict this area and make it a little bit more of a choke, because you don't really need to get surrounds in this area. I mean, a drop or something is going to be annoying, but a spine crawler is good anyway. We also see him, he already has 2 queens up, and he's continuing to get gas. We can get Zergling speed, but he's also maintaining his gas production, meaning he's not going to just go for speed Zerglings, not Banelings. He's making a lot of drones, and we see, BratOk opening, oh, he's opening Hellion drop. This is interesting. Or is he? He's opening very early drop play, and he's doing a very strong push, which is like 4 or 5 Marines and 1 or 2 Hellions. That's really good. And this is on Old Shakuris Plateau, so I miss you, Old Shakuris Plateau. I miss these rocks, and I miss being able to get to this base at all. Sorry. And we see BratOk using these Hellions to gain map control. Meanwhile, Darkforce has arranged his Zerglings in a nice little line. And if we look at the units tab, he has 7 more workers than the Terran. But he only does have 1 gas, and he's still maintaining this gas production, which is interesting. Because generally top-tier players know exactly what they're going to do, so he might know, I want this gas for Mutas, but then he'd put down another one, or I want this gas for Banelings, but then there'd be a Baneling nest in no layer. And so it just looks like he's stockpiling the gas, which is fine, but just interesting to see from a pro player. Meanwhile, Terran is getting down his expansion at a reasonable time, but nowhere near the Zerg's time. And if we go back to production, because it tells the entire story of the game, we see BratOk has now done an elevator drop. Now, an exceedingly annoying tactic that's just good for getting around pesky things like those. And this may be why Darkforce didn't overcommit to spine crawlering, because he knew that there would be drops incoming. Some excellent actually really terrific micro here by the Zerg. Absolutely cutting stuff off. I expected BratOk to lift this stuff much faster, but he did only escape with 1 medevac's worth of units, when before he had almost 2. So that was, if we look at the units lost tab, actually pretty, decent for BratOk. He killed 15 stuff. And now we see the Zerg transitioning in perhaps the most basic composition for Zerg versus Terran, Ling Bling Muta. And I have to say, an exceedingly boring composition. Did I say conversation before? What the fuck did I just say? Man, I'm stupid. Ooh, double expand going down for BratOk. This is kind of cool. I actually did something similar to this versus Protoss, but I just forgot that I built a command center, and then I built another command center, so there was that. This is actually a really good worker transfer number. I like this a lot. This is just sort of the perfect amount where you can get everything set up. BratOk scouting around with this medevac, and the cool thing about Mutas is they give you complete map control. So if you're worried about something like drops or Hellion play, Mutas are really fast. They don't have to worry about terrain. They don't have to worry about pathing. They don't have an air counter that's quick. I mean, technically Broodlord, or technically, what's it called? The thingy with the... They don't have an air counter versus Terran except for the battlecruiser, but that's really, really inconceivably bad versus them, even. Technically it should be good, but it's terrible. And so, really, you don't see drops work after mutas, just because mutas can control lane so well. So mutas plus creep shuts down drop play. We can still worm along the edge, but that's what scouting is for. And I'd really like to see BratOk transition into some Thor play. And BratOk is meching. Good boy. I like this player. He's going for mech. But he doesn't have any upgrades. But he does have 2 armor. Oh, an armory and an engineering bay, proving he's going biomech. Perhaps a more reasonable thing than pure mech. However, we'll see later on a strategy that I've been using to pretty strong success that allows you to not have to get too many barracks and not spread your upgrades around too much. You can just focus on mech upgrades. First few mutas coming out, and we see BratOk taking his third at a really Darkforce taking his third at really the perfect time. I like Darkforce as a player. I wish he was doing something more fun to watch, because let's face it, Ling Bling Muta is super boring. It's just try to kill tanks with Mutalisks. He has tanks, oh no, wait for him to move, because he can't attack you all right yet. Use Mutas to harass, get him out of position. Then as soon as his tanks are in siege, run in with Banelings, kill those Marines. Now that there are no Marines left, you can either clean up with Mutas or you can kill with Zerglings. And it looks like BratOk's actually going for a orbital command farm. This is so cool. This is probably closer to the Boxer game where he did an OC farm. And actually, guys, hate to say it for all you Brood War fans out there, i.e. Tomas, Boxer's not that good anymore. The only guy who's like top legendary tier in Brood War who's good now is Nesty. Oh, where was it? Yes, my train of thought. I found it. It looks like he just got the Ornamental Engineering Bay, a well-known concept here in Admiral Newkirk's casting, and BratOk getting 2 Thors right off the bat. I love this. As soon as you get mutas, make 1 production cycle of 2 Thors, because that way you can send them to your mineral lines and not fear the dreaded Mutalisk. Sorry about that, guys. There was some little teeny tiny bitty itty issue, and so I apologize for the little pause blip there. Hopefully I can put a breaking point there. And we see now BratOk coming in and killing some Mutalisks with Thors. As I said before, I like this Darkforce player a lot. Just getting upgrades at the right time, focusing on the right upgrades. Yeah, good. Getting quite a few queens if I look at the units. Get more queens, Darkforce. But he's very... By balanced, I don't mean fair, I mean literal. He has a lot of balance in his play, kind of player. And so, look at the kind of stuff he does. He runs his probes away, and he has them stop and splits them up, so that way they don't get utterly mauled by those Hellions. And then over here, he brings the mutas back to defend, and he's and he gets extra. In Zerg play, you actually do want ornamental structures, because you want the ability to tech switch if necessary. So if he runs in with a bunch of, say, I don't know, these kind of units, you want to be able to get out a ton of roaches really super freaking fast. And to go back to Darkforce, I wish he would just play a less boring style for the caster part of me, but as the player who wants to suggest good stuff for you guys to do, he's a really good player to model yourself after. Meanwhile, BratOk is no slouch either, getting some nice missile turret play. And, oh, those missile turrets were clutch. And he's doing these very small drops just to poke at Zerg, and he's trying to force Darkforce to get too many mutas. And this is generally the difference between a high-level ladder player and a pro, is high-level ladder players get way too many Mutalisks. And sure, a lot of times that wins games, but against a pro who knows how to handle that, they'll just pump some Thors, and this is not enough Marines and Banelings to kill this many tanks and this many Thors. And BratOk has enough Thors to kill this many Mutalisks, but 14 is probably a safer number for controlling drops, and really those mutas could have killed these Marines, but at the same time, Zerglings work just as well. If we look at the upgrades, there's no Protoss in this game. Protoss is on undefined. Zerg is on +1 attack for both ground and air. Meanwhile, BratOk is only on +1 attack for his mech, but he is getting the turret range and then, or armor structure and turret range. Structure armor. Oh, I cannot speak to gay. However, he does have 5 guys in this gas, which is bad. That's bad. So this is like the perfect amount of Mutalisks. Just stay at this amount to protect everything. And we're seeing a transition to Hive from Darkforce, which is a very reasonable time to get Hive. You don't want Hive Rush because it weakens your mid-game army just a little bit too much. You instead want to get Hive when it comes naturally. Generally when you're getting your 4th up, when you already have your infestation pit. But to reiterate what I've been trying to say for a really long time, I wish Darkforce, as good of a player as he is, because he's just, look, he makes a lot of, he doesn't seem to make any risky decisions, but at the same time he plays aggressively, which is cool. I wish he were doing something more interesting to watch. Because just watching some guy go Ling Bling Muta, I mean, Mech's kind of fun to watch, because you never know if it's going to work or not. And now we're seeing a good transition, because Mech's macro speed is so absolutely piss poor. You want to see someone late game, you want to see Mech as their backbone, but then have a supplemental army of developing bio play. It's a strong transition to make. We see a great number of tanks, and I did this the other day to great effect, although it wouldn't work in this game because there's so many mutas. Putting tanks in this high ground when a guy's going Roach, he didn't bring any overlords. He just died because I had so many tanks on the high ground, and he had nothing to kill them with. We see a transition to Infestors, an excellent play. I think this was actually, was this pre-Infestor buff? I gotta find an Infestor. Click on Fungal Growth. Fungal Growth, 36 damage over 8 seconds. Yeah, this is pre-Infestor buff, but Infestors are still good. I mean, Infestors were given superpowers, but they're still pretty good. Yeah, this is back in March. This is pre the Infestor buff, and we see a hell of a lot of turrets over here. But this is really clever play by Darkforce, because he wants to get in this back area, so because there's this cool creep highway here, and then he could come in and kill all these, and all these, which, oh my god, if I were Zerg, I'd want to kill those so hard. But he knows he can't attack the rocks with Zerglings, because there's a tank, so he might as well attack the rocks with mutas. But he, at the same time, doesn't have to worry about these pesky turrets killing him. And we see now BratOk probably overreacting a lot to the fact that his rocks are broken down, but I guess not. I mean, he's the pro. Lift the supply demons, lift them, lift. Oh, just wait for the Hellions to come in. Did he not lose this tank? Oh my god. Oh, Thorzane, you are so handsome. For any of you who don't get that, go watch Thorzane versus... Just go watch Thorzane, like, right now. Do it. Go watch him in the finals of the TSL. It's amazing. So BratOk probably overreacted there. I would like to see him pull back just his Hellions, but at the same time, he does know that this back door of the Zerg is open, and we see... But... Stop it right there. I have been a terrible caster. I haven't noticed that, why, Darkforce has a lot of Brood Lords. Wait, these are some lovely mech. Why, have you introduced them to my Brood Lords? If we look... Here it is. Here's what I'm looking for, guys. Ghost versus late game Zerg. This has been the matchup I wanted the whole time. This is the reason I picked this game, because it's super cool like that. And I want to show you guys how awesome Ghosts are late game versus Zerg. And meanwhile, Zerg is just absolutely mauling this guy. This is the perfect way to handle Zerg mid-late game. Transition into more Infestors, but this is back when Infestors were a late game unit, not a safe mid-game, because they weren't so superpowered, they were just pretty good. But instead of getting Vikings, which are brutal,